To secure an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future for all, we must channel climate funding directly to the most vulnerable communities, ensuring they have the resources and support needed to adapt and thrive in the face of growing environmental challenges.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Charlotte Kahn, journalist and master of ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, changemakers, good morning and welcome to the Zayed Sustainability Prize Forum. I'm Charlotte Kahn and I'm delighted and quite excited to be your master of ceremonies today. The Zayed Sustainability Prize was created to honor the late founding father of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, and his legacy of humanitarianism and sustainable development. Since its inception in 2008, the prize has changed the lives of 378 million people, thanks to the bright and innovative ideas of 106 winners. And our mission at the forum today is to accelerate the momentum and to amplify the impact of global climate action in the lead up to COP28 UAE, which will take place in Dubai later this year. Throughout the morning, we'll be joined by a remarkable lineup of sustainability champions, all committed to delivering inclusive climate action. They'll share thoughts and solutions to transform food systems, to accelerate inclusive climate finance, and to ensure a just transition. And our first speaker certainly is an advocate of sustainable energy for all. So without much further ado, because we have a very packed and busy and rich program for you today, I'd like to please welcome the former United Nations Under-Secretary General, Member of Parliament, and Chair of the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security of Sierra Leone, the Honourable Dr. Kande Yumkela. Thank you so much for joining us.
How do we accelerate progress for people and planet? We must find new ways of living and working, harnessing creative solutions that address the climate and social challenges of today to bring about transformational progress for a better tomorrow.
Dr. Yumkela, thank you so much for joining us today. So, of course, we're here to celebrate climate innovation, but we're also here to discuss the need for climate justice. So I'd like to start with some stats, some statistics and facts to give you some context about today's conversation. In Africa, for instance, 43% of the population still lacks access to electricity. The continent only produces 3% of global energy-related CO2 emissions, despite being home to 1/5 of the world's population, and is also one of the regions most impacted by climate change, and Sierra Leone in particular, very vulnerable to it. So how do we best deal with this energy quadrilemma, a very technical term to describe the need to deliver more energy to people, to make sure it's affordable, to make sure it's sustainable, but also that everyone can benefit?
Thank you very much. You can add to that the positives, that we are sitting on 40%, in some cases 50% of the critical minerals needed to help the rest of the world transition to clean energy, to power green growth in the rest of the world. We're sitting on 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land to feed populations. When we're 9-10 billion on this planet, I will be long gone by then. We also, in the last 15 years, over 40% of the new discoveries of gas were in Africa. What am I trying to say? And according to the International Energy Agency, we also have over 40% of the radiation that is needed also for solar power. When you look at all of that, there is a bad story, that there is injustice, that most of our people do not have access to electricity. 900 million without access to clean cooking solutions. So we have to cut the trees and use charcoal and firewood. But on the positive side, we have all these assets. And also today, our Congo Basin forests and our other forests will be absorbing more CO2 from the atmosphere than even the Amazon. So the solutions you need for the future are with us, but yet we also pay the highest price for others misbehaving and not being honest. We go to COP every year, and we hear all the declarations about how emissions will go down. Ambitious commitments are made. I've been in this circuit now 20 years. And yet, every year we're told it's code red. Emissions are going up. Oh, the earth is warmer. So others are not keeping honest. We emit less than 3%. But yet we don't have access to energy, and we are not supported enough to deal with the extreme weather events that are affecting our people and so on. But look at what is different, because this is about innovation now, looking at, you say, rethink the future. We started doing that in Africa 2 weeks ago. We hosted the first Africa Climate Summit. Our own narrative and how we say it. We want to talk about climate positive growth. With these green assets we have, how can we meet our own energy needs, grow our economies, make sure our children have jobs, decent jobs, and at the same time, work with the rest of the world to transition to a cleaner energy future? That's the narrative we want. And that's why, again, we want to partner with UAE, COP28, and others to look at it differently. Instead of we being looked at as victims, we want to be looked at as those who also have the solutions. Because what everybody else needs to solve that problem is with us. And I see everybody visiting us now because they want a piece of the African real estate to extract those minerals for the iPhones, for the Samsungs, for the fast computers, and all the comfortable life, but also for the solar panels and the windmills and the batteries. Can we be part of this green revolution in a positive way? But you need finance, you need regulations, and you need better partnerships. That's why these dialogues are important.
So thank you, yes, worth an applause for sure. I was going to ask you two questions in one, really. How can we unlock this potential? What are the biggest hurdles at the moment, and what could make a difference? You mentioned finance.
So one is honesty, as simple as that. When you invite us to COP every year and you make commitments, 70 billion, 100 billion, oh, there's $1 trillion sitting, be honest about it. Look at the delivery systems as well. You can pledge as much as you want, but if we don't have the basic support to design those complex programs, to access that finance, it's just a mirage, number one. So real honesty is important. If you say your country is going to make efforts to mitigate emissions, do it. Let's go to the next summit and you show us by how much you reduced. Second, let us go to the next summit and you really say, okay, green hydrogen, for example. It is very clear that North Africa, Namibia, Kenya, they are ready to supply the rest of the world green hydrogen and other resources. We have the sun in the north, we have geothermal in Kenya, and of course Namibia, sun and everything else. So the resources are there. Work with us genuinely to deliver. I give you an example. In Glasgow, we were all excited about JET-P, Just Energy Transition Programs. And the flagship was 8.5 billion for South Africa. I myself started preaching about it all over Africa. I said, wow, there's a new model now. How programs will be designed and we take care of those who are dependent on coal to transition to something else. I went to South Africa in March. A single dollar has not moved. Single dollar. So you ask yourself, and now people say, well, we're going to have more JET-Ps. It's a mirage. We need to see practical action. The technologies are known. The solutions are known. South Africa by itself has already done reverse auctions where they know solar and wind you can get for 4 US cents or 6 US cents. What's blocking it? Yeah, part of it, I believe, is also honesty from parties, but also we have a responsibility as leaders in Africa to get the regulations in place, the right public policy, to have good governance as well and stability to attract. But sometimes I think that the other sides are not driving as much change for us as they promise. It's not enough. It's small projects. We are beyond pilot projects. The proof of concept is there. In Dubai, you can get solar for 2 cents. We know it's cheaper. My problem in my country is we have too much water. You cannot say to Africans, but hydro is not good for you. But most of the hydro potential in America and in Europe is already built up 40 years ago, 30 years ago. You cannot say to others, no, but don't use hydro. There's a better way to use the hydro so people have clean access to clean water and can irrigate their soils. They can even use it in combination with solar. So let's use hybrid. Let's be honest about these solutions. It's the same thing. That's why I talk about honesty. You cannot say to Africans, which happened 3 years ago, that you can't use gas. Gas cannot be part of the transition because it's fossil. But you have 900 million Africans that need the gas to cook. And it's killing women and children. Or globally, household air pollution kills 4 million people every year because they lack access to clean cooking solutions. You cannot say to Africans, don't use the gas. But here I can choose gas or electricity, whatever I need to cook in a comfortable way. You say, but you don't use it because it's fossil. Let's be honest. It's part of the transition. We need energy. We're going to be over 2 billion by 2050. It's just around the corner. 2 billion people. Our children want to be like you. They want to be comfortable. They want to be smart. And they are smart. But you cannot say, don't do this, but we will do it. We'll open more gas fields. We'll supply more gas to our people, but you don't touch it. However, when there is a crisis, you come and buy it. That's not justice. That's not honesty. Let's be honest with ourselves because there's only one planet and we all own it.
Going back to finance, could you share some strategies implemented across Africa to convince investors?
Well, we need de-risking finance. We need, that's why some public finance to support our development banks to be able to mitigate some of the risks that the private sector have in entering our markets. Second, our cost of borrowing is high. It's very high. Locally, in a number of African countries, interest rates are nominal interest rates are double digit. Nobody will borrow at that level to build up a solar power plant. So de-risking financing in significant numbers is important. But also the project development resources. That's where the problem is. For a good hybrid solar and hydro project, for example, in our neighborhood, which is badly needed, sometimes the pre-investment stages are millions of dollars. The environmental impact assessment studies are very expensive. You don't have those resources. So people come, they assess, they see all these wonderful renewable energy resources you have, but you don't have the money for those pre-investment stages. That's where grant money, public finance from the rest of the world will be critical. Because once we can do the feasibility studies, we can do the financial structuring of that, some private sector will be interested. We also need to do regulations. And we recently, with the support of the EU, NL Foundation, some other institutions, we've launched in Nairobi now 2 weeks ago, the Africa School of Regulations. For big investments to come in, you need clear, credible regulations backed by acts of parliament so investors have confidence about what the tariffs would be. Yeah, and what other taxation and other policies will be if they come in with their money over the next 30 years. So regulations are important if you want to crowd in big investments.
Earlier, you alluded to the need to collaborate further. Okay, so with COP28 on our horizon, how can we promote stronger partnerships amongst governments, businesses, the private sector, etc., and local communities to enhance the accessibility and impact of sustainable innovations across the continent?
Well, we see some of the partnerships already evolving before we even get to COP. In Nairobi, for example, with the support of the UAE, the International Renewable Energy Agency, Germany, Denmark, and a number of Nordic countries, we've launched, for example, the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa, which will target initially 6 countries, but we hope we scale up to 10 to deal with the regulation issues, to deal with the project development facility, and then structure finance, yeah, for larger scale renewable projects, yeah. So that already has been launched. We're working on it now to present the first country assessments at COP28. We had a good meeting with Sultan El Jabbar. I worked with Sultan El Jabbar over the last 10, 12 years. Very innovative man. We supported his Mazda initiative, Sustainability Week. I was there on stage the first day we launched this award. Very innovative man, and we will work with him on an Africa Investors Day. We're looking at the date. We're discussing here in New York. Again, we want transformative projects. I give you an example. In Glasgow, we launched the Green Grids initiative. The Prime Minister of UK and the Prime Minister of India, and some of us connected by video there. Well, Africa has finished the Intercontinental Interconnection Master Plan. Yeah, we want to take that to Dubai and look at the different sub-regions and the interconnection grids. And we want to discuss concretely with partners, what do we need to do to give you confidence to create those interconnections? And they are important. I lived in Europe over 20 years, and I see the advantage of trading energy through those wires. It could bring stability, it could bring peace for our people. But some of us have a lot of sun, others have a lot of hydropower. Yeah? So how do we do that interconnection? So we trade energy, and the evidence has been shown how much savings can result. But then we can put bigger clean energy solutions and integrate into that transmission. So we want to take that. It's concrete. The feasibility studies are done. Can we put it in front of investors and our international partners to discuss how we make that a reality? Because it was a big deal in Glasgow. Interconnection, energy trade, linking countries together. So electrons for peace, I call it.
There's a lot to benefit from further energy integration across Africa and further regions, but how do you go about it? How do you dialogue with neighboring countries about sharing energy systems, infrastructure, and striking those deals?
It is happening already. Ethiopia is beginning to sell energy to Kenya. Yeah, so there are efforts. President Kagame and his colleagues, they've been talking about energy trade for at least the last 5 to 10 years. I know of that. In Sierra Leone, for Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, 4 countries, we inaugurated an interconnection line a year and a half ago. We know we can build a second one. So, and you have some of these pockets of energy trading already within the continent, but our leaders have also put a vision by 2063 to have a one Africa energy market. So you're looking potentially at a market that will have over 2 billion people by 2050. So this is promising. I think we can scale up those experiences. But I want to, again, talking about innovation, I want to come back to batteries. Yeah, people don't realize that Elon Musk is partly African. Do you know that? From South Africa. So I say to our leaders, come on, call Elon Musk, say, my brother, come home. We want to talk to you. Yeah. We have the lithium you need. We have the magnesium. We have the cobalt. We have the graphite. What do we need to do with you to build your batteries here on the continent? It's right next to the source of the raw material. That's the kind of conversation that has to be different now. You call the business guy who is innovative, has the cash as well. Say, what do I need to do for you to build a plant here? Maybe 5 plants if you want. Because cobalt, over 40%. People hear of Congo, for example, DRC. All they hear is the horror stories on TV. People don't report that in spite of that horror, people are in those forests taking out the cobalt, bringing it elsewhere. You know, that's where sometimes we see a little bit of the hypocrisy. Yeah? And sometimes some people like the chaos. When there's chaos, the pricing is not proper. We've got to change those kinds of injustices for a peaceful, stable world. I see a lot of young people here. We want our children to partner with you in a different style of global governance, in a different style of prosperity. You win, we win. Not exploitative, mercantilism, 17th century. That's not where we are anymore. Our kids are well educated in some of the best schools in the world. They want to be like you. They want to innovate. They want to partner. And it's about that future that is important. We're going to be over 2 billion. We're going to be over 2 billion. That's a lot of people. And they will move. If people continue to emit, if the world continues to heat up, what will they do? They got to move. And they'll move somewhere. You want them to move as paying investors, paying tourists, not illegal aliens. And we don't want our kids to be illegal aliens. That's why we want better climate justice, better fair trade. I'll give you another injustice. Last week in Kenya, we were discussing when they price carbon, in some parts of the world, it's $70 a ton, $100 a ton. When they come to us to price avoidance of emissions or our forests to absorb the carbon, they price carbon at $7. You're young, you're modelers, model for me. Is that justice? Same commodity, $70 somewhere else per ton, $100, but when it comes to Africa, and we have to keep the forests alive, it's $7. And yet, that's the carbon finance we need to do alternative energy solutions, to create jobs, to create wealth, to add value to those minerals, so we make the batteries cheaper and faster for the rest of the world. So those kinds of pricing and structuring, we need to discuss that honestly and openly.
Going back to the topic of climate innovation, do you think that the Global South, and Africa in particular, has the potential to leapfrog to clean technologies like it has done with mobile phones, for instance, and connectivity, mobile connectivity?
Yeah, I see the great potential. I see some examples already in Kenya on e-mobility. That's moving fast in Kenya already. There are other countries trying to follow that example. I see the interest in green hydrogen because they have all that huge geothermal potential. I see the move in Kenya for green hydrogen, in North Africa already, Egypt, Morocco and others moving fast, looking at the green hydrogen potential. Also green steel, Namibia same, but also Southern Africa. They sit on about 70% of the world's platinum group of metals. I see the move there for hydrogen fuel cells. So yes, we Africans are innovating. We need the partnerships to even move that faster. So yes, I see those trends. But also remember, with M-Pesa in Kenya, we moved faster on digital payment systems than anywhere else, particularly in Kenya. So now I see here you have Zelle, you have Cash App. Well, the Kenyans were already doing it 10 years ago. But the media does not talk about that. It's only the horror stories.
Well, actually, let's carry on with that more upbeat note, I guess. Are we thinking about the energy transition the right way? We use the words dilemma, quadrilemma, challenges, issues. How about its potential to generate new jobs or create new jobs, generate more wealth, and if it's indeed a just transition, maybe help distribute wealth in a more equal way?
It is yes and no. We have to show the challenges. We have to talk about the negatives. But we also have to talk about the opportunities. I think we're not talking about the opportunities enough. We should do more of that. But you know why sometimes you need the numbers, the bad numbers? We're having a debate 2 days ago in another round table. Globally, over 7 million people die every year from air pollution. About half of that is from household air pollution using charcoal and firewood to cook. So women and children die simply because the mothers have to cook and the kids are playing around them. Now, I asked the question in a forum and it was very deliberate. Yet, there is not enough being done on air pollution. Is 7 million deaths too small? Is that why? Should it be 10 million? Should it be 15? It's a rhetorical question. If you can't pay attention to 7 million people dying every year to clean the system, what number will make politicians and others wake up? So that's why sometimes you see people putting the stack numbers forward, because people say, well, we don't see the evidence. Well, here's the evidence, but the opportunity story has to come out. That's why we are switching, at least from Africa, with the leadership of President Ruto, my president, President Bio, and others, to say that, look, we want to talk about the climate positive growth, to talk about the opportunities we have. And we want to see how those opportunities can be exploited for the benefit of mankind. One of the good things they've done for COP28 is the integration of energy and food systems. Last night, we had that session. I was moderating like you, and we had Bezos Earth Fund, IKEA Foundation, OPEC Fund, and others, looking at embedding energy solutions within food systems. And this morning at 8 o'clock, they had a debate at the UN on the emerging food crisis. There is a real food crisis moving forward. So yesterday was again another innovation that is going to COP28, because these distributive, decentralized energy solutions have to be embedded in rural economies for local economic development, wealth creation, but also ensuring better food production from solar irrigated water pumps, solar water pumps, to also solar energy in the whole value chain to process foods and preserve foods. So I see that positive, I see that emerging innovation, and we're taking that to COP as well. But you see the partnership there. You have the Global Energy Access Alliance for People and Planet. You have Bezos Foundation, IRENA, UAE, and so on. You see new collaboration emerging, but at scale. Yeah, the idea there is to launch $1 billion fund to again unlock additional private capital into energy nexus with food and health.
Dr. Yamkela, as you can see, the screen is flashing, and that means that we don't have much time left. In fact, 1.5 minutes, because I can't let you go without asking you what success will look like at COP28.
Honesty, real honesty, action, and a timetable that in 6 months we want to check what really happened after that. They said we do a stock take. COP28 is stock take. And I know the answer already. We didn't do as well as we should have. That answer we know. Can we also say, well, in 3 months and 6 months, we're going to check whether the commitments made at COP28 will be delivered. And we should be ready to shout on the rooftops if we're not being honest on all sides in 3 months or 6 months after Dubai.
Hear this? Dr. Kande Yamkela, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Much appreciated. We knew it'd be a great conversation. Definitely lived up to it. Thank you so much.